Fire and brimstone coming down from the skies. Rivers and seas boiling.
40 years of darkness, earthquakes, volcanoes.
The dead rising from the grave.
Human sacrifice, dogs and cats living together, mass hysteria.
Enough, I get the point.
Welcome back to Thinking Critical. This is Wes, and today I'm going to give my comic book review for Tales from the Dark Multiverse, Batman Hush. Obviously, this is a spoiler review, so if you don't want spoilers, you might go read the comic and then come back and check it out. But if you already know or you don't mind the spoilers, definitely going to get into all that here. This is written by Phillip Kennedy Johnson, who Perch and I just highlighted on the channel here when we were talking about the next generation of writers to be on the lookout for, who we think is going to be, some of the creators that are going to be moving up to that upper crust, the upper echelon at the big two, somewhat in the near future. People to keep an eye on. He's definitely one of them. I'm a big fan. Love his work on The Last God, the best fantasy comic out there, in my opinion. That's available on DC Black Label, illustrated by Dexter. One of my personal favorite comic book artists. This one is also colored by Ivan Placencia. And as the name would imply, this is a dark retelling of Batman Hush. That's debatable whether this really has much of anything to do with Batman Hush other than some character designs and things like that. But this is a 4-star comic. This is a highly recommend. I've really enjoyed most of the Tales from the Dark Multiverse comics. I know some of you are like, what? You don't like the Dark Multiverse. That is correct. For the most part, I don't. I wish this is what they were doing with Scott Snyder's Dark Multiverse creation. Instead of stuff like, well, maybe Dark Knight's Metal you probably needed, but instead of just, the Year of the Villain, the Batman, Superman, the Infected, moving into Dark Knight's Death Metal, which is selling well, so I'll give you that. Apparently people like it more than I do, personally. I wish they were doing stuff like this, these weird what-if, one-shot things. Although, if I'm being honest, I wish this was a miniseries, like a 4-issue miniseries. I think they would have, Phillip Kennedy Johnson probably could have told a more cohesive story where he had to cram in some stuff here, which I don't think is really his fault. It's obviously he's constrained by the page count in this one, but I quite enjoyed it. Like I said, I've enjoyed a lot of these, especially the Death of Superman. I thought was done really well. I did enjoy Nightfall, although I gave it somewhat of a negative review. I went back and read it again. I liked it a lot more that time. That one probably should have been a 4-issue miniseries. It had to go way too fast. Some big ideas on there. So I wish, like I said, this should be the direction of the Dark Multiverse. These really cool, weird one-shots or maybe little mini-series where they're telling these weird versions of stories we've all loved and enjoyed. Now, before I get into the details, I will say, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, today is the day to subscribe to the channel. Hit the bell for notifications. Give me a thumbs up if you enjoy this review. Give me a thumbs down if you don't. Either way, I want to hear your thoughts on Batman Hush, the Tales from the Dark Multiverse version, in the comments section. Did you enjoy it as much as I did? Do you think I'm an idiot? Does this comic suck in your opinion? Let me know that one. Throw some tomatoes at me in the comment section. I don't mind that too much. Now, getting into it, we always cover the art first, and Dexter is one of my favorite artists. Shockingly, I love the art in this comic book. There's some really cool character designs. This version of Hush, I think it's the Batman Who's Silenced, or something. I don't remember what they name him. It's something silly. It's a Batman Hush mashup. Obviously, we've gotten a lot of that within Scott Snyder's Dark Knight's Metal, Dark Knight's Death Metal. I like this, the character design. He looks cool. The colors are vibrant. He's got the wraps. Don't know why. Like I said, it doesn't really tie all that much into Hush, but it's a really cool character design. Dexter Soy is always, he's one of the best in the business at visual storytelling, keeping the eye flowing on how you're supposed to be reading the comic, how the action is really dynamic. Knocks it out of the park on this one. Art by Ivan Placencia absolutely matches, or the color art by Ivan Placencia absolutely matches the artwork. It matches the tone of the comic book. Knocks it out of the park. This is a really fun, cool comic to look at. You get some really insane stuff. This one probably isn't nearly as violent or gory as some of the other ones, but I certainly don't hold that against it. I think this is top notch. I really enjoyed this one, and the art certainly has a big part to do with it. Dexter story, great Pinoy artist. Very happy to see him on this comic book with Phillip Kennedy Johnson, one of my personal favorite writers that I think is an up-and-coming creator that we should all be keeping an eye on. Now, getting into the story. If people are expecting to come into this and see a darker version of Hush, where maybe one thing changed in Hush 1 or something like that, what we've kind of gotten in the other Tales from the Dark Multiverse, you're not really going to get that. Not really. This is Bruce Wayne still here, sort of. Thomas Elliots, who obviously is the titular Hush from the very beloved comic story, is in here. That's about it. Otherwise, the character design, that's obviously a mashup of Batman and Hush, but everything else is kind of thrown out the window, and he just kind of takes liberties with it. And I dig that about this comic book. I think that's going to irk some people. Some people are going to be like, oh, this is one I expected. Well, I wasn't expecting anything. I just coming here for a good story. I really enjoyed it. I kind of liked that they let Phillip Kennedy Johnson take the gloves off and just do something really different. And in this version of the story, in this Dark Multiverse, Bruce Wayne and the Wayne family were not the only ones going to see the Mark of Zorro. They were there with the Elliott family. They were there. They witnessed the murder, and rather than Alfred Pennyworth raising Bruce Wayne, their son, Tim Elliott, already loved him like a brother. They adopted him because they knew that they would be able to take care of him better. It turns out that was a bad mistake because Tim Elliott's not a good guy. So this is kind of like where this story goes off the tracks from the original Batman story. And we get the what if. What if Tim Elliott's family was with the Waynes when they were murdered and they adopted Bruce Wayne? And when we get introduced to this new version of Gotham, it's really strange. Gotham is no longer a city. It's like a city-state. Gotham has its own president. They got their own senators. And one of those senators is Tim Elliott himself. He's a man about town. He's kind of one of the Gotham elite. In fact, they call him part of Gotham's first family. The first family are no longer the Waynes. It's the Elliots. Because once they took over Bruce Wayne as their charge, obviously the money somewhat came into their hands, although that will play into the story later. And so here is Tim Elliott, man about town. We got Jason Todd. We've got Cobblepot, and they're all going to these galas and stuff. And Tim Elliott gets called off. He's like, hey, you need to come to the hospital. And then there's a cool part where, this is like a fascist state. The Gotham state media, and there's no longer the GCPD. There's a Gotham Security Force, the GSF. And, while the intro is really interesting, it's like a Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous kind of guy. Who was that? Robin Leach, where he's talking about how amazing these people are and how the city is a beacon of light. What does he say? Even after all the trials Gotham has been through over the years, and its hard-won climb to independence and greatness on the world stage, still remains a beacon of peace, prosperity, and trend-setting lifestyles. But then you obviously see in the real world, there's hell on earth is what's going on in Gotham. Save us from the GSF. Obviously, it's a police state. So they're presenting themselves as something they're definitely not. And Mr. Elliott, Senator Elliott himself, is a big part of that. And we find out the reason that he was called off and had to go to the hospital is Bruce Wayne is dead. He has been in Arkham Asylum for 10 years in a vegetative type state. Dr. Crane here was in on it. And he was doing a lot of experiments on him during the time. And he's told not to don't talk about our deals and stuff like this. So there's some shady things going on. And Tim Elliott, Senator Elliott, is at the heart of it. He is a shady character. He's basically, they have usurped the Waynes and Bruce Wayne as, he's the new prince of Gotham, the new city-state. And you have to wonder, why was Bruce Wayne in Arkham Asylum for 10 years? Why was he in some type of vegetative state? Why were they doing all these experiments on him? It's not very nice. So along the way, we do get to see a lot of other characters. Obviously mentioned Jason Todd already. We see this is Barbara Gordon, Oracle. It appears that in this version of the Dark Multiverse, she's actually blind. This is Dick Grayson. Obviously, he was never Robin or Nightwing. He is the Graysa, obviously a Talon, and he has his own army of Gray Sons, the Court of Owls, that are on the come up in Gotham City-State. I don't know. They just call it Gotham, I think so. And then, of course, like I mentioned, here is Jason Todd. He's got like a part of him is machine. You can see it here on his neck. He's got a little beeping thing on his ear. What I do find odd is, like, without Batman's influence in their life, why would Jason Todd like be this? Oh, I guess maybe he was he a thief? Why does he ends up being an arms dealer? Well, I guess it's because of her father was murdered by Thomas Elliot. I don't know. Maybe it makes sense. It feels like most of these characters probably should have had Bruce Wayne, Batman in their lives for them to be at this state. But it's an Elseworlds what if story, and it's a lot of fun. But these are really crazy, wacky versions of the characters. There's a lot of politics in this comic book. They not a lot of it, but a lot of it does have to do with politics. And at one point, Tim Elliott, as he's leaving the Arkham Asylum, his helicopter is shot down, and it turns out that missile is not in Gotham, and they're having to do some investigative work. So there's a bit of a mystery here, and they figure it out that the only person in Gotham that has that kind of stinger is Jason Todd. So Dick Grayson, the Gray Son, is interrogating him. They're trying to get to the bottom of it, and we find out there's all this politics. You've got the Court of Owls that are trying to keep control of him. You got the League of Assassins through his I believe it's his girlfriend, Talia al Ghul. And we also see a lot of this. This keeps coming up a lot. The Mask of Zorro, the ticket keeps showing up. The reminders of what happened in that alley with Bruce Wayne's family. And obviously somebody is coming back to haunt him. He thinks it's Jason Todd. It's definitely not Jason Todd. We know who it is. We know it's Bruce Wayne as Hush. And this is the first time he sees him. Here he's in that helicopter before it gets shot down. This is a cool vision a visual of Bruce Wayne, Batman on a gargoyle in Gotham. Obviously, it's something he's seen. It gets shut down, and you see him like jumping in there, and it turns out a lot of weird stuff has happened. It turned out that Tim Elliott had hired his like the family's limo driver to kill his parents, but they accidentally killed the Waynes instead, and he ended up murdering them later on. And he ended up seizing control of the Wayne fortune, having Bruce Wayne committed, and he used all of his funds to become a very powerful senator. He's obviously an evil man, and Bruce Wayne kind of come back to haunt him. I will say, like I said, I wish this was a miniseries, because at the end they had Phil Kennedy Johnson, the writer, has to like cram in all this explanation how this version of Batman, the Batman who was silenced, Batman Hush, came into existence, and he ended up getting a lot of help from different criminals that Batman had put away in his career. One of them being Joker himself, who's kind of like an inside guy, and help him fake his own death, and he was able to fake his own vegetative state and all this other stuff. So the ending of it is very rushed, but it's just because it's a one-shot. It should have been a miniseries to actually fully flesh out the story. It's a lot of fun. And then at the end, we do find Alfred. He ends up getting the fortune back, and Batman becomes Batman, because no matter where you are, Bruce Wayne will always come Batman in the end. That's kind of like the overarching theme of the story, even within the Dark Multiverse. Bruce Wayne will always put on the cape and cowl. And I thought that was like a cool message. Even if someone takes all of his wealth, even if someone else kills his family, it has him committed to Arkham, he will eventually put on the cape, the cowl, no matter what, and he will come avenge his parents' death, and he will fight for Gotham City. I thought that was a cool story, even in the Dark Multiverse. I left out a lot of stuff. There's a lot of. I'll give Phil Kennedy Johnson this. He was able to cram a lot of story into. I think this is 50 pages. It might be a little bit more than that. But I think he did a really good job. There's some issues with it. Like I said, I don't know why everybody is Batman related. Why does Batman even look like this? Why does he dressed up like Hush. It's because the name of it is Tales from the Dark Multiverse Hush. But otherwise, it's a fun, if you're looking for something and just weird to read, I think you're going to enjoy Tales from the Dark Multiverse Hush just as much as I did. If you're looking for a new examination of what could have happened on Batman Hush, you're not going to get that. You will be disappointed because that is not what this story is. It is just a weird, wacky version of Batman and his origin story where Tim Elliott was involved. And I really dug it. I thought it was really good. The art was a lot of fun. The story is hokey, but quite enjoyable. It's very fast-paced. Tons of action. Really cool visuals. The character designs are really good. I really enjoyed it a lot. I don't know. What do you guys think? Did you enjoy Tales from the Dark Multiverse Batman Hush as much as I did? Are you enjoying the Tales from the Dark Multiverse as much as I am? There's been a few misses, but I think there's been far more hits as far as I'm concerned. This is a highly recommend 4-star comic. And I think if you've got some extra money and you want to buy a comic that's just very enjoyable, you can read it. You don't have to worry about continuity or anything like that. You can just move on. I think this is a comic for you, and I think you'll enjoy it as well. Let me know what you think in the comment section. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like. I would appreciate it very much. It helps us attract more views for the channel. Subscribe for future commentary, comic book news, and reviews. And don't forget to ring the bell for notifications. If you want to talk comics, movies, and much, much more, you can follow me on Twitter at Wes_from_TC. With that, Salamat Po, and I'm out.